Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted. Pause. I'm so sorry, you guys. Was I muted the whole time? Let's do this again. Welcome to the Sabby Sab Show on RBN. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. And happy New Year's Eve. I'm sorry, I'm not used to that. Like, usually it unmutes myself. Like, I don't know why I didn't do that this time. Like, usually I don't have to go in and unmute myself. It just does that. So, anywho, I'm here. All right. So, tonight, let's try this again. Two stories here. We're going to discuss Glenn Greenwald calls out the media. So Glenn Greenwald is going to critique how the media has been for the year of 2022. So that's an interesting story there. And I'm also going to discuss the Buffalo, New York winter storm update. This is in reference to the death toll in Buffalo, New York. And also, we're going to link this to the discussion of poverty and how poverty affects people in reference to this situation. So excited for that. Let me go ahead and give a couple of shout outs to people in the chat. Dabby Dab says, "What's up, RBN fam? Don't forget to show the like button some love." That's right. Go ahead and smash that like button, guys. That helps me out with the algo. What's up, Carrie? Carrie says live or a clip. This is live. I'll give you guys a hint here how you can tell the difference. Clips actually say premiere, and live videos will say live. So that's how you can tell the difference there. Shout out to Wary says, "Hey, everybody. What's going on?" Majin says, "Sabby, called you on call in last night. Great convo as always. Keep up the good work." Thank you so much. Call-in is being a lot of fun. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm having these really long call-in shows. I think we were going for over 4 hours last night. But interesting discussion, and it's always great to hear from you guys. That's what I love about call-in so much. I actually get to hear your voice and not just see you as, an account in the chat. Shout out to Terry, says, "Greetings, fam." Shout out to Ryan. Ryan, thank you for letting me know I was muted. Oh man. What's up? Ivan says audio. I know, Ivan. Willow says no sound. I heard you, Willow. I'm so sorry. Ah, yeah. Shout out to Anthony, sends a laugh emoji there. What's going on? Mastermind Hour says revolutionaries assemble. Shout out to Kyle, says it's okay, Sabby. I just got here. All right, Kyle, you make me feel better. You make me feel better, Kyle. All right. Shout out to RIP Shireen, says, "Yo." Greetings, John H, says, "Comrades." And shout out to Sweary Fairy, says, "Hey, my loves. Hope you're all comfy tonight." I hope so too. We're gonna get started with this winter storm story. And it's really interesting because now the weather is somewhat warm here in Massachusetts. It's very weird. It's up and down temperatures. It was really cold a couple days ago, and now it's warmed up a little bit. So let me make sure I put the banner here as well. Where'd my banner go? Where'd my banner go? Where'd my banner go? Yes, guys, to let you know how you can support us, you can do so on Patreon. That is the best way to support those of us at RBN. So that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. So I want to get started with this story coming out of Buffalo, New York. Now, a couple of days ago, we did have a winter storm. That storm was not just in Buffalo, it happened here in Massachusetts as well. We usually get their weather after them because the current moves like this direction. So whatever's happening in Chicago, it usually moves our way within the next couple of days, and that includes Buffalo, New York. Now, that winter storm was pretty brutal. It was definitely worse in Buffalo than it was for those of us here in Massachusetts. We did get snow where I live, but it wasn't a huge amount like what you're going to see in Buffalo. And we did have strong winds as well. And so I want to explain to people what happens when you have those two paired up. It's one thing to get a lot of snow. It's another thing when you get a lot of snow and you have strong winds, because what happens is you can end up with conditions called a whiteout. A whiteout basically means you walk outside and the wind is so strong or sometimes the speed of the winds are, the wind speed is fast. The winds are very strong. It may be hard for you to stand up without feeling like you're going to be blown over. And there's a lot of snow. What you will see during a whiteout is just white. That's it. You may have difficulty trying to see the road. You may have difficulty seeing what's in front of you. So we have had those conditions here in Massachusetts. And that's exactly what happened here in Buffalo, New York. Now, some of the people there, unfortunately, did lose power. And that actually is where the death toll comes in. This is how people died during that storm, because if you lose power during a winter storm, obviously that means you're not going to have heat. So you had people in their homes in really cold weather and no heat. So it's dangerous conditions for people. But I want to play this clip here because they are calling this the blizzard of the century. And then I want to make the connection here to poverty, because this is all connected. And if you think that this is something that affects everyone, it's not. The people who are working class, people who are poor, they are going to be affected more heavily than people who are wealthy and have the resources and the means to get out of this situation. So let's go ahead and start with this clip.
Amid frantic rescues and mounting loss, this morning, Buffalo still not out of the woods. Western New York could see even more snow by tonight, after more than 4 feet brought Buffalo to a frigid halt.
Nothing can compare to this storm.
The Tisdale family says they almost didn't survive after their car got stuck in the whiteout. Thankfully, firefighters came to the rescue.
They saved our lives. So many people didn't make it out of their cars. So many people didn't make it out of their homes.
The severe winter weather blamed for nearly 60 deaths nationwide. One of the state's hardest hit, New York. President Biden declaring a state of emergency after officials reported more than 24 weather-related deaths.
1 second, I want to show you this image right here because I want you to see what it looks like.
President Biden declaring a state of emergency after officials.
Do you see this? This is what a whiteout will look like. Notice you can't really see anything. In this type of condition, you would need to have your high beams on if you're driving, because notice you can't really see what's in front of you except for the lights of this car. And now those are very, very dangerous conditions. You should not drive in those conditions. We had that happen with the snowstorm here in Massachusetts, and Governor Baker told people that we could not drive on the roads because it just wasn't safe because you had a whiteout. So I just wanted to pause that there to show you what that looks like.
Officials reported more than 24 weather-related deaths.
It is painful to find members of your community that are deceased, who were trying to walk out during storm conditions, got disoriented, and passed away out in the street.
Navigating streets turned to parking lots. Authorities also facing reported looting.
I don't know how these people can even live with themselves, how they can look at themselves in the mirror. They are.
Let's pause here and talk about this for a second, the looting factor. Now, he's saying he doesn't know how those people could live with themselves. Okay. Let me get this straight. You have no power. You have the blizzard of the century. And you also have a lot of people in poverty and a large working class population in Buffalo. And you don't understand why someone may loot during those conditions. Make it make sense, you guys. Make it make sense. Let's go on. Out of touch.
We are the lowest of the low.
This as first responders continue to help Buffalo residents, with New York State police troopers assisting road clearing crews, checking for stranded motorists, and assisting in search and rescue efforts.
It's up in flames now.
While firefighters struggled to control a multiple home fire in the deep snow yesterday. And the Buffalo airport will remain closed until Wednesday morning as the area braces for a touch of more snow today. That viral Christmas party with stranded South Korean tourists giving Yosef Choi and his wife a honeymoon he'll never forget.
I got a new family member in Buffalo too, so, I can describe in a word, it's like, I met angels.
Such an incredible, inspiring story, a sign of hope in what has been a very tough time here in Buffalo. We do have some cars out on the roadways right now, guys, but for the city of Buffalo, there is still a travel ban in place this morning. We are looking at some warmer temperatures, even if just slightly, in the days ahead, so hopefully that will bring some relief as well. Peter?
Those piles of snow next to you, hard to imagine. All that came over the course of the last week. Jesse Kirsch, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Okay, let's talk about something here for just a second before I go to the article. Where he said, are people used to severe weather in that area though, or were they unprepared? Great question, Wary. I was actually going to go into that in just a second. I'm just going to say this. If you are someone that does not like snow and you don't like cold weather, don't live in Buffalo, New York. They get so much snow to the point that sometimes there's nowhere to put the snow after you shovel the snow. So that is one of the places, they're right on the cusp of that lake. So they get the lake effect. Same thing with Chicago. They get that lake effect. So that's one of the reasons why a city like Buffalo gets hit so hard. But yeah, people who live there, people who are from there, they are used to getting a lot of snow. They've had blizzards before, but apparently this one was the worst one. I think what hurt them the most with this particular storm is the fact that they lost power. So if you can hold on to the power, then you can still have heat. But once you lose power, that's when things start to go a little cuckoo, because what are you supposed to do? I mean, you're going to freeze. A very cold place to live, does get a lot of snow. I would not want to live there. I've been to Buffalo. I would not want to live there. So yes, it's brutal for people there sometimes. So the death toll there is now up to 60 people. When I first started reading about their particular situation, I think it was like 20 people, but they're finding more people as they go along. So it's unfortunate, and these things do happen. But I think what we really need to focus on here is the situations that the people are in that live in Buffalo. We really need to take a look at the poverty situation so that you understand why they're in that position to begin with. It's not just the fact that there was a bad snowstorm and people lost power. It's also the fact that particularly people who are living in a state of poverty are going to experience this worse than those who are not. And World Socialist website, they covered this so beautifully. There's a couple of things I want to read from this article here, because they really took a good look at the overall issue. So let's make this a little bit larger because the font's a little small there. Again, World Socialist website, WSWS.org. Follow them, guys. They have really good stories. They do a great job, I think. I think they're underrated, to be honest. Poverty, inequality, and official indifference are to blame for the dozens killed by the Christmas weekend blizzard in Buffalo. Let's go into it. Still kind of small. No. There we go. The number of deaths from the massive storm that hit Buffalo, New York, and most of the country continues to grow as recovery efforts continue. As of Thursday, Erie County officials reported 39 confirmed deaths, most of them 31 within the city of Buffalo. I just told you guys, that's now been increased to around 60. That number is sure to go up as people check on family members and friends, and emergency crews and National Guard troops continue following up on emergency calls that had been placed. Now, let's go down here. Power has been restored for most, but many people were without power for 4 or 5 days as temperatures remained below freezing. Temperatures dropped below 0 Fahrenheit on Friday and remained in single digits over the weekend. The massive blizzard dropped up to 52 inches of snow. Let's go on here. want to get to this point here. Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown, by the way, that is the same politician that ran against India Walton. Just to make that clear to you guys, in case you weren't paying attention or you don't remember, that's the guy who won by write-in votes. That's Byron Brown. Mayor Byron Brown defended his handling of the storm in an interview Thursday with the Washington Post. This was a historic storm. This should not have come as a surprise. I absolutely think residents were adequately prepared. So that answers your question there, Wary. According to the mayor, they were prepared. Everything that could have been done in the lead up to the storm and during the storm was done. Jocelyn Benton, an advanced EMT at American Medical Response of Western New York, which is contracted by Buffalo to provide ambulance services, told CNN that she felt officials could have put out snow plows earlier. Yeah, but the snow plows are not going to have an effect on the wind conditions, though. You're still going to have those fierce winds, but I get what she's coming from. She goes on to say, not being able to help people is horrible. Knowing we could be a block away from a call, but we couldn't get to it because of the weather was difficult. All right, let's go on here. Workers who had gone to work were trapped at their job or as they attempted to drive home. Workers and shoppers at Walmart stores and other stores were trapped. Many were forced to spend several nights inside. Residents now face the possibility of flooding as temperatures are going up into the 50s and rain is predicted for Saturday. Again, government officials are indifferent. Mayor Brown, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, and President Joe Biden, all Democrats, have pledged that their prayers go out to the families of those who have died. The news media is dutifully referring to this as the storm of the century, as if it was impossible to predict or prepare for. Listen to this. In reality, the response to the storm is another example of social murder under capitalism. Almost all those who died and the tens of thousands without power were working class and poor. What did I tell you? Because see, people who are wealthy, when it was announced that this storm was coming, those people can take off and they can go further south. They have the resources, they have the money to be able to do that. But for people who are working class and poor, they may not have money saved away for a rainy day to leave the state and avoid having to deal with this storm. You see, this is where the resources come in. It's the same thing. Like when I lived in the South, we used to get a lot of hurricanes. Like hurricane season there is less. People would have like a party. Like if there's a hurricane party, it's no big deal. Like people are so used to it. But the Category 5 hurricanes, those are the ones that are obviously the most dangerous ones. And oftentimes, same situation. The people who have the resources will pack up their stuff. They'll drive further away. They'll stay in a motel or a hotel and let, the storm blow over. And then they'll come back home. But the people who are working class and poor, they can't afford to do that. They have to buckle down in their homes. So they are more likely to experience the fallout from the storm. And it puts them at a greater risk of possibly being murdered, or not murdered, dying during that storm. It puts them at a higher risk because they have to stay there and ride it out, and they don't have the means to leave and go somewhere else. This is very much a class issue. That's what I want to drive home here. Because if you don't have the money or the resources to get out of the situation before it happens, you are stuck. You are stuck. Let's go on. When a full accounting of those who died can be taken, it will undoubtedly show that most were those who were not able to work from home, are unable to afford to take a day off, or among the homeless who were unable to find shelter. Poland Carnes did not issue the travel ban until the storm had already begun. Businesses were not ordered to close on Friday and send their employees home before the storm arrived. There has yet to be an accounting of why plowing was not started sooner. That's another thing that's mentioned. Buffalo only has 24 truck drivers in its public works division responsible for clearing the streets. That's another big problem. With a city like Buffalo that constantly gets these snowstorms, maybe again, not to this level all the time, but does get blizzards, they do get snowstorms every winter. You should have more than 24 truck drivers. I say this as someone who lives in Massachusetts. We usually are pretty prepared for this kind of thing in the sense that we already have the plows on the roads before the storm reaches that height. Mayor Brown has not said when they began plowing. It is very possible that not wanting to pay overtime, the city merely relied on it being a holiday weekend and hoped that the weather would warm sooner and the snow would not melt. The snow would melt. CNN has reported that Brown did not attend daily calls with the county and other area leaders to coordinate response to the blizzard. Meanwhile, state officials who knew the storm was coming for 5 days did not provide additional resources until Monday and Tuesday. You guys see, you following this? Buffalo's housing stock is very old and often lacks the needed windows and insulation to protect against freezing temperatures. Ditto. Same thing here in New England. A lot of the homes are old. This is like the oldest region in the country. So it's not common to find new construction here. It's just not as common like when you're looking for a house. You may find a house that's renovated, but new construction is not as common here as it is in other states. So what that means is that when you live in these older homes, it is more likely that you can experience drafts. Like even if you do have the heat on, you can have a drafty home, or like they said here in this article, they will be subject to those freezing temperatures. On any given night, 2,500 to 4,000 people are homeless. And in all, 7,500 people are homeless throughout the year. The city does not operate a single homeless shelter. Those that are opened are run by various religious and charitable organizations and do not have enough space to house the entire homeless population. On Sunday, only one warming center was open 24 hours, and another 2 were open 12 hours. With the roads impassable and a raging blizzard, it was impossible for those in need to reach them. Again, this goes back to access to resources, being able to get to those facilities where they do have heat. Furthermore, the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress have driven up the homeless population by lifting the moratorium on evictions that had been put in place at the beginning of the pandemic. This is another thing that we always have to point back to, lifting that moratorium. Poverty in Buffalo and throughout the upstate region, including Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica, is some of the worst in the country. This is true. I told you, I've been to Buffalo and I've seen it. I remember driving through downtown Buffalo and I was like, this is the downtown? Where are the businesses? Where is everything? So you have to understand, if you've never been there, this is very true. Poverty, it's a big problem in those areas. In 2021, in the 4 upstate cities, nearly 1 in 3 people lived below the horrendously low official poverty line of just $21,960 for a family of 3. The median household income is roughly $40,000 a year, just over half of New York State's average of $75,000. I want to say something really quick here in reference to this median household income. That is very low, you guys. That is very, very low. And yet at the same time, you have some of these New York State politicians making 6 figures. Just keep that in mind. Childhood poverty rates are even higher, running between 45 and 50% of all children under 17 growing up in families living in poverty. Again, the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress made this problem worse when they eliminated the extended child tax credit at the end of 2021, claiming that it was no longer needed because the pandemic was over. This is another thing that you guys need to point to. Eliminating that extended child tax credit. This is another part of the problem. So what have we mentioned? Ending this and also ending the eviction moratorium. So obviously, there's going to be more devastation. So Democrats were, cheering this on. Democrats were giving themselves a pat on the back for doing this and leaving out the fact that this ended and so did the moratorium. That's why I called BS on that. The deaths and overall catastrophic created by the winter storm are not merely a natural occurrence. The social inequality and inability of the system to address even the most basic needs of modern life is a direct result of the capitalist system. Billions are spent on endless wars, supporting the banking system and stock markets for the rich. But the basic needs of the working class and the poor and the elderly go unanswered. Only when the working class takes control of production and society is run democratically for the needs of all and not the profits of a tiny few can the great social problems be addressed. This article, again, is from the World Socialist website. I'm going to put this in the chat as well, just in case you guys want to share this article with others. Now, why did I want to show you that? I've watched several news segments talk about the storm. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, local news. All of them talk about how devastating the storm was and the death toll, the infrastructure issues. But none of them talk about the fact that the people primarily affected are the ones who are working class and those who are poor because of the capitalist system that we have in this country. None of them bring that back home. So what I want you to understand, when they talk about the death toll, most of those people that died, those are people who were poor, people who were homeless, or people who were working class. Rich people beat this shit. So it's not just about, did the mayor warn people in time? It's not just about, did they have enough plows? It's not just about those things. So in the video that I showed you, where Mayor Brown said he doesn't understand why people would loot the stores, go back to the poverty numbers I just showed you about Buffalo. The median income for Buffalo, $40,000. The median income. So many people living in poverty and they lose power, and you expect them to not take something? How much is Governor Hochul's salary? How much was Andrew Cuomo making? You see, these inequalities that we have in this country, it's not just New York, that we have in this country. The people who are the ones that are the most affected are the people at the bottom. The people at the top, they find a way out. And I don't care. I don't care if it's this blizzard, if it's Hurricane Floyd, which I went through. I don't care if it's the next earthquake. I don't care if it's the next tornado. People with the resources and the money, they have a way out. Essentially, they're not caring about the death of poor people. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. And I've watched this on multiple news programs, and no one is making the connection. No one is addressing the poverty issue. Jeffrey says this storm and its deaths are a direct result of capitalism and its failures. Buffalo is very impoverished. Our downtown is stupid. Dirty blue collars everywhere. Yeah, Jeffrey, I went through the downtown and I was like, where is everything? Where are the businesses? Like, I was kind of surprised, when I went to Buffalo. Studio says the problem is not capitalism, it's corruption. Look how much money is being laundered in Ukraine. How much money was laundered in Afghanistan? You can still link that back to capitalism. The people at the bottom are the ones who are exploited here. It's a terrible thing here. It's a terrible thing. Mastermind Hour says the power line should have been buried to begin with. That's another thing that comes up from time to time, whether or not the power line should be above ground or underground. Unfortunately, because of our infrastructure, in some cities, you can't put it underground. You can't put it underground. Did you know, and this is in reference to cable, did you know that FiOS, right? FiOS in certain areas in Massachusetts, they can't exist because FiOS, they have to put their wires under the ground. So if your infrastructure is not made for that, you can't get FiOS. You have to go with Comcast. Bob says 5 days to get water to New Orleans during Katrina, but 45 billion to Ukraine signed within hours. Exactly. And again, even when you look at Hurricane Katrina, who were the people that were primarily affected? It was working class people and poor people. Those were the people that were mainly affected. Rich people left. Fallen says this is genocide, period. Demand says there are forces like the WEF that literally want to wipe out half of the planet's population, just like Thanos. I have a Marvel fan here. All right. I love Marvel, by the way. There you go. Like I said, they don't care when poor people die. They really do not care. Let me see here. Thank you for the super chat, Graham7. New York State lawmakers approved $32K pay raise to become the highest paid in the nation. Thank you for the super chat. It's crazy, man. Crazy. Robin says, Robin, we once went 5 days without power in a winter storm. Thank goodness we had family help. Yeah, it's my fear is people getting stranded. Like that's my biggest fear when these storms happen, and it has happened before. This is why sometimes, like, at least the governor here has said, no, we're closing the roads. Don't drive on the roads, especially if it's whiteout conditions, because you could end up stranded. And if we're in the middle of a whiteout, the emergency crew may have difficulty finding you because they may not see you. So Rick says during this Texas freeze, the rich pulled a cruise and went to Mexico. Exactly. That is a really good example, Rick. Ted Cruz was like, let me get on this plane and go to Mexico. The rest of you guys, you deal with this power issue. Like I said, he has the resources to do so. Now, Scarlett said, it's true. I live in Rochester. Yeah. You know, guys, if you haven't had the opportunity to do so, I know everyone wants to go to New York City. Like when they come to New York, they're usually going to New York City. You should visit upstate New York. It's very different. Very different than New York City. I have to say this because sometimes I feel like people forget that there are more cities in New York State. That New York State is not just New York City. There are so many other towns and cities above New York City. I have to say that. John said went on a cruise. There you go. There you go. Okay, let's get to our next story. Now, this one is about Glenn Greenwald. A lot of people are doing these end of the year kind of videos, right? And so Glenn Greenwald decided to focus on the media in reference to his end of the year video, or a look back on 2022, right? So he decided to focus on the media. So I want to show this to you here because I have a couple things to say. The name of this video is called Year in Retrospective: The Prevailing Authoritarianism of Liberal and Media Elites. You guys have to hear this. I listened to this the other day and I was like, okay, say it again. So let's go ahead and dive in here.
When I first began writing about politics in 2005, it was the heyday of the so-called blogosphere. The most read bloggers on both the left and right that built huge audiences were writing 2 paragraphs of invective at a time. And the conventional wisdom quickly emerged that to succeed in new digital age media, you had to write extremely short posts designed to feed an angry and polarized audience, prepackaged polemics that flattered their preconception, never challenged them, and always keep them hooked with anger and other intense emotions. But having just spent the prior decade as a constitutional lawyer, I probably lacked the ability and definitely lacked the desire to comply with those rules. And so ended up doing exactly the opposite. Focused on the war on terror, I began writing daily 4,000-word, often highly legalistic articles. And my audience quickly began growing and never stopped growing. And that proved to me that there is always an audience out there that craves substantive and well-reasoned analyses, even if it takes a lot more time, attention, and energy to consume. And ever since, I decided I would rather have an audience composed of people with healthy attention spans than those who need constantly kinetic and frantic entertainment. And that's how we plan the format of this program. So with that in mind, we wanted to use what I explained at the top of the show as our last program for the year. We'll be back producing nightly shows right after the new year on Monday, January 2nd, to not only examine what we regard as the most important stories we covered during 2022, but also to identify the common themes among them, the core.
Just wanted to pause here for just a second because I do just want to explain this in case some of you might be a little bit confused. Go ahead and hit that like button also, guys. Glenn Greenwald has a show on Rumble, and I know like we're on Rumble too, but Glenn Greenwald has a primary show on Rumble, and I think it's Monday through Friday. I want to say Monday through Friday evenings. It's really good. Kim Iverson is going to be doing this as well. She's been offered like her own like show on Rumble. So there's a difference between like those of us that we have like our content on Rumble and we upload like maybe our YouTube stuff on Rumble, but they have just their own Rumble show. And I think what Glenn does is he'll take like little clips from that and put it on his YouTube channel. But if you want to see the full segment, you need to see that on Rumble. So I just wanted to make that clear in case you guys are like, where's the rest of like the videos? So I just want to make that clear. I'll go back just a little bit. Sorry.
Second, to not only examine what we regard as the most important stories we covered during 2022, but also to identify the common themes among them, the core dynamics driving them, all to better understand what happened over the last year and to better anticipate what is likely to come in 2023. To make this more coherent and structured, we've divided the stories we covered into different topics, and we'll look at each one at a time. In many cases, there are common threads running through all of them, and our hope is that by the end of the show, those will be clearer than ever. So before I begin to delve into the specific topics, I want to begin with a video clip that many of you likely have already seen. It really went viral and made the rounds because it is so incredibly revealing. It's from an interview that Sam Harris gave in August of 2022, where he was asked by the host of the program what he thought about the media's lies right before the election about the Hunter Biden archive, namely that the documents there were Russian disinformation, that big tech ended up taking that lie manufactured by the CIA and censoring it. And Sam Harris proceeded to explain why he regarded all of that, as justified, namely because the most important goal that was paramount to all others was stopping Trump, and therefore anything done in the name of that goal became justified, including lying. Listen to what Sam Harris said, because I believe it really reflects the prevailing mentality of elite political and media circles.
I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden, but even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China, it is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like a firefly to the sun, right? I mean, like there's just, it doesn't even stack up against Trump University, right? Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop, in my view, right? Now, that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right? But I think it was warranted. Right. And again, it's a coin toss as to whether or not
Sam, I'm sorry.
That particular piece.
I'm really sorry. I was the one that said we should move on, but you've just said something I really struggle with there, which is
the kids in the basement.
Fuck the kids in the basement. I'm interested in democracy. You're saying you are content with a left-wing conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left wing, right? So Liz Cheney is not left wing, right? Liz Cheney is doing everything in her power
to prevent somebody being democratically elected.
But there's nothing conspiracy. It's not. It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part's conspiracy, what part's out in the open. I mean, I think it's like if people get together and talk about what should we do about this phenomenon. If it's like if there was an asteroid hurtling toward Earth. And we got in a room together with all of our friends and had a conversation about what we could do to deflect its course, right? Is that a conspiracy?
I mean, there's so many parts of that are shocking that every time I watch it, and that might be the 10th or the 15th or the 20th, I genuinely end up like those hosts, kind of like my job before, just shocked.
But there's a certain type of media that really grabs people, that type of sensational, I guess you can call it sensationalism, like the sensational journalism, where they provide that shock value, that shock factor. It could be someone like an Alex Jones, right? Like that type of content, there is a significant audience out there for that. And so when Glenn is talking about the media perspective here, this is something I want you to think about. Like how many people have leaned over to that lane because they know that there is a large audience out there that do want that type of, shock factor, and there's money to be made there. Versus what Glenn Greenwald does, where if you read like his Substack, like he really takes his time and breaks things down for you and goes step by step by step. Some people don't want to read all of that, but I think it's important that you read the details about stories, because if you don't, you just walk away with whatever Sam Harris was just talking about there. You walk away with that shock value, but you're not getting the details and you're not even getting the whole story sometimes. Let's go back in here.
That someone would come out and say that. But honestly, I think Sam Harris deserves a kind of credit in the way that people who are candid about their sociopathy deserve more credit than people who hide it. He's expressing not this aberrational rogue view that only he holds. That, what you just heard, is absolutely the prevailing and overarching mentality of the entire liberal political and media class when it came to the last 5 or 6 years, and that continues to this day, given Trump's intention to run again in 2024 and the ongoing existence of not just Trump, but his movement. It's, to begin with, the premise, which he states right there, is that Trump is such a singular evil almost unlike anything we've ever encountered before, that anything that needs to be done to stop him, having the media conspire with the CIA and big tech to lie and deceive and manipulate the public and suppress critical information through censorship, is justified because we need to defend democracy from Trump. So, for one thing, it's always been the height of irony that the people who claim that they're defending democracy, as he just did, are always explicitly advocating the core attributes of authoritarianism, the very opposite of democracy, like censorship, like the union of corporate and state power to manipulate public opinion, a hallmark of fascism itself. But note the hubris that lies at the heart of all that. It may be true, maybe you agree, that the corruption that the Hunter Biden laptop exposed about Joe Biden, the attempt to trade on his family's name, to pursue business deals to profit his son in Ukraine and to profit himself in China, pale in comparison to the corruption that he says Donald Trump is guilty of. Maybe that's something you agree with. But that's the point of journalism. Journalism is to unearth all of the relevant information, particularly about the two people seeking the most powerful political office in the country, the presidency, and to divulge it all to the public so the public can make their decision and weigh those factors to decide for themselves what they think is the most important. But people like Sam Harris believe that their knowledge and their sense of values and their judgment are so superior to the masses that the masses cannot be trusted to make those decisions on their own.
That piece right there. The masses cannot be trusted to make their decision on their own. Why is this important? First, you need to ask yourself, why do we have a CNN, MSNBC on one side and a Fox News on another side? Why do we have this category where Fox News is conservative and CNN is liberal and MSNBC is also liberal, right? Why do we have those categories? Why not just give people the facts? If you're a journalist, just produce the facts on any one of those platforms and not have the narrative lean a certain way because you're trying to appeal to the liberal audience or to the conservative audience. Why can't they just give people the facts and let the public figure it out for themselves? Because that's actually what journalism is supposed to be. Journalism is just supposed to be the facts. It's really not supposed to be your opinion or you taking the facts and removing pieces from the story that don't fit the liberal narrative or don't fit the conservative narrative. But that's what happens on those networks. And it's not just those networks. It's also some of these other media outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Huffington Post, the Boston Globe. These outlets as well also have a narrative that leans a certain way. So you don't have a Walter Cronkite anymore. You don't have someone like that so much in journalism today. You can't even trust local media. Even I used to, trust local media a little bit more, but even with them, you can't really trust them, especially when it comes to elections, because I sat here on the couch and I watched local Boston news lie about Bernie Sanders when Bernie Sanders had his rally here. It's all connected. There's a certain narrative that each one is trying to get across to the people instead of allowing the people to think for themselves. You know why? Because they don't want you to think for yourself. They want you to be controlled. They want you to be manipulated. The press today is not the same press that it was during the Walter Cronkite days. That does not, for the most part, does not exist unless you go independent. That may be your way if you can go independent. But even then, even in independent media, there's still, if I show you a story where a conservative did something that is right in the right, I am smeared as right wing. If I show you a story where a Democrat did something in the right, I'm smeared as a liberal. I'm neither one. So even when it comes to the left and the right and Democrat and Republican divide that we have in this country, that comes from the media too. It doesn't just come from Washington, D.C. It doesn't just come from those political parties. It also comes from the media. In fact, the media is worse because they are streamed in homes all across the world. Now their ratings are tanking. We've talked about that before. Let's be clear. We've talked about that before. But 5 million people watch Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News. More people still watch CNN than they do independent media, even though their ratings are tanking. They're leading the narrative. Let's go back in.
And therefore, the masses have to be deceived and manipulated. Evidence has to be hidden from them because they can't decide for themselves what's best. They need people like Sam Harris, who are highly educated, who went to the right schools, who come from the right families, who think clearly in good progressive ways to do it for them. That is absolutely why the media participated in these lies and why to this very day they justify them. They don't regret it at all for the reasons Sam Harris said. They may not be as honest as he was in that clip because they know saying that undermines what they're supposed to be doing. So they won't admit it that candidly, but that is absolutely the only explanation for everything they do and say. And at the end of the day, they kind of do admit it. When you press them, when you put them in the corner, when you force them to explain why the censorship that has been escalating over the last year, why the lies that they fed the public on purpose, knowing that it was a lie, as we've seen from the Twitter files, that the lie that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which was clear from the beginning was a lie, and that they still ratified it. When you force them to finally acknowledge the real reason, this is what they will say.
The Hunter Biden story probably is the best, most recent example because the press and the government did not trust the American people enough for us to read that story, hear that story, and make our own interpretations of it. So what did they do? What did the Twitter files tell us? The FBI comes in and tells Twitter, suppress the story. The FBI contacts Mark Zuckerberg and tells him to do the same thing for Facebook, suppress the story. Because they don't want the American people to see it. Oh no, don't let them see something bad related to Joe Biden and this could mess up a lot of things. Let's not go down that road. They suppress it. And if they can't suppress the information and the information does get out to the masses, then they will smear you. People have to be given the opportunity to make their own decisions with the information that is put in front of them. But with the media today, we are not given that opportunity.
That the movement that is represented by Donald Trump and the tens of millions of people who voted for him are so dangerous and evil, unprecedentedly so, that any measure that we undertake in the name of stopping him, authoritarianism, fascism, journalistic deceit, hiding information, manipulating the public, and using the internet to censor are all justifiable. This, to me, is the overarching philosophy that explains everything we're about to look at. And I unironically thank Sam Harris for being one of the few people to have the courage to admit the rotted, malicious mentality that drives them. So with that really crucial context in mind, let's look at some of the most important stories of 2022.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I was telling you guys. If you want to see the rest, you have to go on to Rumble to see the full segment there. So, yeah, his show does really well on Rumble, really well. You guys should check that out. I think Kim's show is starting in January. I think it's starting January. I don't think it started already. I have to double check. But the point there is the fact that the media is probably your worst enemy. because they're always trying to find ways to manipulate the public. So this is something I still tell my friends today, like, take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt, okay? Because you just never know what you're going to get. And then it'll be years down the road, and then someone will uncover the story again and say, oh, by the way, this actually was true. But then it won't matter because the people in power will no longer be in power anymore, and they would have already gotten done what they wanted to get done. So this is something that has been happening at least my whole lifetime. Those of you older than me that are watching, I'm sure it's probably happened during your lifetime too. So something has to change there. That's why I'm so thankful for independent media. I'm thankful to hear other voices. I'm thankful to hear information that I'm not getting from mainstream media. That's why we have to keep independent media. What's that, Lawrence? Kim has been teasing with previews. Oh yeah, I know. I did see the preview on her channel. Let me see if she still has. I saw one of them and I was like, oh wait, this is not this is not the actual show. Let me see. Rumble is blowing up, you guys. Like, they are on fire. I'm not kidding. Not kidding. Is this the one? I think this is a preview. Let's see. Is that the one? No, that ain't the one. The one that I saw, she had like the intro and everything. Let me see if I can find it. Kim's got a lot of videos. Jeez Louise, man. Jeez Louise. Let's see if, oh no, that's a month ago. Oh, okay. It's from this week. That's right. Dang it. Did she remove the preview? Ay, ay, ay. Kim, don't tell me you took it down. Oh, I think she took, okay, there was one where it had the intro, and that was the one I was going to show you guys. Let me take this down and share my screen. Sorry. There was one I thought there was one where she showed where there was like an intro and there was like a theme song and everything. It was kind of cool. And now let me move this over to the other screen so I can see the comments as well. This was recent. 1 day ago. Wasn't 1 day ago. Aw, shoe balls. I can't find it now. Let's see if it's on the homepage. Nope, that was 3 months ago. Anyway, it's not that one. Is this the one? Anyway, that's what it's going to look like. But I thought she had one on here that had the actual intro song and everything. That's what I was looking for. That's why I was like, let me see if she put it on Twitter, and then I head out. But let's see. Because it was cool. I was like, oh, that's a cool intro. Okay. See. Emerson show. Let's see if she posted it. Oh, okay, she posted the image on here. Okay, I'll just share the image then. I'm sorry, guys. I'll share the news that she put here so you guys can see all the people that have like those exclusive shows on Rumble. Because she put this in the announcement. So it says here, breaking news. And I know I'm going off topic now, but it says, breaking news, Kim Iverson show will be a part of Rumble exclusives. That's what it's called. Joining the lineup with Russell Brand and Glenn Greenwald. More details coming soon. So yeah. Coming soon, the new Kim Iverson show exclusively live streamed to Rumble Video for 1 hour Monday through Friday with clips posted on other platforms. Join my locals for the after show each day. So yeah, that's that Rumble exclusives. So I'm telling you guys though, Rumble is starting to blow up, which is, I think that's pretty cool because look, some pals of mine have been having some problems with YouTube because people have been getting strikes left and right. I'm not kidding. I saw another one today. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So if you guys haven't downloaded that app, try to do that. Try to do it. Danny says CNN headline, bombshell. Yes, it does. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Breaking news. Oh man. Oh my gosh. Killian Gorgas goes, awesome. Kim's coming back. Yeah. Yeah. I think she'll do really well over there on Rumble. I know Russell Brand does pretty well. I don't live stream on Rumble because you have to pay to do it, unless I'll check and see if they've changed that. But you had to buy a package in order to live stream on there. And I'm like, that's another bill I'd have to pay for. So I have my YouTube channel synced to Rumble. And then after my live streams are done, then I'll go the next day and then I'll post it to Rumble. That's why you'll see it as an upload, but you won't see it streaming. So unfortunately, I'm not trying to take on another bill. I don't want to take on another bill, you guys. I'm telling you, all this stuff starts to add up. Anyway, guys, I'll be back again in about an hour, actually, because I'll be on my channel for my 8 o'clock Friday show. And this is the last Sabby Sab show on RBN of 2022, because I won't come back again until next Friday. But balls. I'll have my show tonight on my channel, and then I am having an all-day New Year's Eve stream on my channel as well on Saturday. This is the second annual one. I did this with Kerberos Media last year as well. It's a lot of fun. So there's all these different panels. Hardlands Media is going to be a part of this too. But tonight I'm going to talk about Jimmy Dore and Max Blumenthal reveal. That's in reference to Russia and Ukraine. I'm also going to discuss, yes, I got to talk about Andrew Tate arrest there. I got more information on that, so I'm going to talk about that. Also, I'm going to discuss Epstein banking issue, JP Morgan lawsuit there, and the California ballot initiative win. So that's what I'm going to discuss on my channel tonight. If you want more Sabby, come see me over there. Come hang out at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right, guys, you know how we do this. Please have a good weekend. Have a happy new year and be safe if you're going out tomorrow night. Other than that, have a good night. Keep up the fight.